Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Ed Kilgore Show. I hope you had a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and hopefully a great 2024. Going to be a lot of things happening. Before we start looking at the Bills' path to the playoffs, maybe even an AFC East division title, who knows? It's still up in the air, but I'd like to thank my sponsors. We have Blue Tusk Tech of Orchard Park. If you have any computer needs, especially if you need an old computer refurbished like I did with my Mac, Blue Tusk Tech in Orchard Park, they're the people to go see. Also, Atwell Eye Care. I did cataract surgery on both eyes last summer with them, and it's just phenomenal results. So Atwell Eye Care for sure. And then Global Vending Group of Buffalo, they are helping child literacy around the world. They have these book vending machines that they're setting up in schools all over the world to help increase child literacy. So good for them. I think it's a great thing. Anyway, to the Bills, and boy, it wasn't easy as they dug a little hole out in Los Angeles before finally subduing the pesky Chargers 24-22 on a final drive field goal. It shouldn't have been that close, but when you turn the ball over 3 times, as the Bills did, that makes it very, very difficult to win. As a matter of fact, only 5% of teams that are a -3 win football games in the NFL. It's very, very difficult to do. The Bills, in effect, you had a Josh Allen interception, you had a Cook fumble, actually fumbled twice, lost one of them, and then a punt return fumble. So that's 3 extra possessions that the Bills gave the Chargers offense, and even though they have some injuries too, they played very, very well and very, very hard, so good for them. But the bottom line is the Bills now at 9-6, very much alive in the playoff picture. They got some help. The Denver Broncos went down to the New England Patriots, which not only helped the Bills because the Broncos ultimately would have the tiebreaker if it came down to the Bills and the Dolphins for a wild card spot, but the victory also made it quite clear to the Bills that the Patriots haven't chucked in this season. They aren't quitting by any means. A lot of people think, well, play for a draft choice. No, because each player is worried about his job. They like those nice, cushy lifestyles. You know, they make a lot of money, but they have a lot of bills too, as Patrick Ewing once said for the Knicks. People didn't understand why he was so upset about losing, millions of dollars. He said, well, we have a lot of bills. Okay, well, good for you. But anyway, the Bills very much alive at 9-6 and coming off a good win. Josh Allen, again, he had one mistake, had a pick that was a poorly thrown ball downfield to Stephon Diggs that was slightly underthrown and picked. But other than that, I thought Allen just did a tremendous job of playing within himself, made some plays with his legs, got a couple of them in with rushing touchdowns, threw one, and hallelujah for Gabe Davis to have a big game. Had a long touchdown catch. Davis, who had just disappeared, made 2 of the biggest plays of the game, one to score a touchdown on a nice Josh Allen scramble from pressure, and then another one way downfield that set up yet another score. So it was great to see Gabe Davis re-enter the Bills' offensive picture. Joe Brady has wanted to get him in there, but it just hasn't been working out. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come here over the final couple games, which could be still for the AFC East division title. The Dolphins finally beat somebody that had a winning record as they beat the Cowboys. So the Finns are in really good shape, especially if they manage to beat the Ravens at Baltimore next week. I don't think they're going to do that. The Ravens look sensational in their win 33-18 over a very good 49ers team. And in that game, we saw 2 supposed MVP candidates along with Josh Allen and maybe Tua Tagovailoa, but you could throw that in there or debate it. And I think Patrick Mahomes is out of the picture now after the Chiefs literally stunk up the joint against the Raiders. The Chiefs are floundering, although they are still at 9-6, very much in the playoff picture. But Lamar Jackson was really impressive in that game against, like I say, a very good 49er defense. He had 23 of 35 for 252 yards. He threw for 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and also had 45 yards rushing. 30 yards of that came on one big play that kind of broke the game open. So Lamar Jackson is certainly in the picture, although, interestingly enough, his total touchdowns right now stand at 24, which is impressive, 19 of those on touchdown passes, and he's protected the ball well. He has only 7 interceptions. But on the other hand, he has 24 total touchdowns. Brock Purdy, who had a horrible game for the 49ers, 4 interceptions, which has really hurt his MVP chances, in my opinion. But Brock Purdy has 31 total touchdowns. Josh Allen, 40. He has 40 total touchdowns. It's the 4th year in a row that he has done that, which is an NFL first. It's never happened. And yeah, he had a couple short touchdown runs. And here's something I hear fans starting to say more and more, that, well, you know, a 1 or 2 yard touchdown run for a quarterback is no big deal. I mean, it's only a yard or 2. Well, how many quarterbacks can do it like Josh Allen? You know, I mean, yeah, the Eagles have the tush push that's very effective from a yard in, but Allen doesn't just score touchdowns from 1 or 2 yards out. In fact, most of his 13 rushing touchdowns, all but about 4, have come on runs of 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11 yards, even 19 yards. So don't diminish the effects of Allen's effectiveness down near the goal line, because he is a real weapon in that red zone. And the Bills, that's why they are number 1 in the NFL at converting third downs. And a big reason for that is Josh Allen's legs, because he can make it happen on third down, and that's huge. So just don't turn it over. You know, that's the secret here. But not only was Gabe Davis impressive, but a lot of people are wondering, well, what about Stephon Diggs? Is he slumping? Is he not trying as hard now? No, I don't think it's any of those things. I think other teams have been doing a better job of trying to take him away. But Diggs still becomes the target for Josh Allen on important third downs. And he's still a terrific football player. He has 8 touchdowns. Gabe Davis now very sneakily has 7 touchdowns, so he's only 1 behind Diggs. And then you have Khalil Shakir, who I still think they've got to get the football to more often. All he does is make catches and turn it into extra yards. Shakir, by the way, who has averaged 16.1 yards per catch, he has a couple touchdowns. He's the only Bills receiver with 10 or more targets with no drops, 0. He had 1 in the preseason, some people seem to remember, but he has no drops, so kudos to him. And I just think Joe Brady, hey, Joe, you know, number 10 out there, he's pretty good. I'd try to get him the ball. Also, I was a little surprised that James Cook, who's been a tremendous part of the offense as a receiver out of the backfield, had 0 targets in the Chargers game. That kind of surprised me a little bit. I'm sure the Chargers were trying to take him away, and they did a good job of that. But still, Cook running very effectively. He's now over 1,000 yards, averaging 5 yards a carry. He's terrific. He has 40 receptions for over 400 yards and another 4 touchdowns. So coming down the stretch here, James Cook is still a huge part of the offense, but he put the ball on the ground a couple times. Cannot have that. Now, I think this is interesting. Cook fumbled twice in the Charger game, and luckily the Bills recovered 1, lost the other one, but Sean McDermott kept him in the football game. He didn't jerk him out of there. Remember a couple years ago in that opening game against the Rams when Cook was a rookie, fumbled on his first carry. He didn't even see the field again for 5 or 6 games, but he's an integral part of the offense now. Brady knows it, McDermott knows it, and they kept him in there. And I think Cook is going to be very conscious of protecting the pigskin, because the only way the Bills can lose games, and especially like coming up against New England. New England showed us that they haven't mailed it in yet, as they beat the Broncos in Denver, and that really helped the Bills should the two of them wind up tied some way, because that Bronco win with the 12th man on the field for a field goal that was no good, the Broncos' win there would break any tiebreakers. So the Bills don't want them to be standing at the end, and the Patriots took care of that and showed that they are going to be formidable next week. I think the Bills, no chance they are going to overlook the Patriots, especially losing to the Patriots earlier this year in Foxborough and just an unforgivable breakdown by the defense late in that game. I just don't see that happening again. The D, for all its changes and injuries and young players in and out, the Bills' defense right now is fourth in the NFL. They are fourth in the NFL at allowing points. They're allowing just about 18 points per game on defense, and offensively, the Bills are fifth right now in scoring at 26.9. But again, 18.4 points against, and a big reason for that, and he's really made that big contract well worth it, is number 91, Ed Oliver, and that inside defensive tackle spot. He had 2 sacks, but also had several pressures in that game against the Chargers, and he has become a very formidable force. We also saw number 40 a little more than we had. Von Miller finally starting to heat up a little bit, and he had a lot of plays, and we saw him hurry a couple throws, and with 2 regular season games left and then hopefully some playoff action, if Von Miller can start getting closer to where he was before that ACL over a year ago, then the Bills defense, and Taquan Jones wasn't back, but he's ready. He's on the roster of 53 now, so if Jones can come back, then it gives the Bills some depth at defensive line and also a chance to put some pressure on some enemy quarterbacks. It may not matter that much this coming week, but then the final game at Miami is going to be huge. And speaking of Miami, they finally did show they can beat a winning team. Yeah, they beat the Cowboys, barely, but they did, and they looked good doing it. Their speedy receivers, Waddle and Hill, are just as dynamic as ever, and you talk about remembering how dynamic they are. The first notice we got of just how explosive the Dolphins can be was a game at Baltimore last year when the Dolphins fell way behind, and then Tagliavoa hit Hill and Waddle for a couple of huge touchdowns on chunk plays. And the Ravens now are going to host the Dolphins next weekend, and I'm sure that they haven't forgotten about that game. And the Baltimore Ravens right now, after their 33-19 win over a very good 49er team, they look to me like they could very much be the number 1 seed in the AFC heading into the playoffs, but they have to do the Bills a small little favor by knocking off the Dolphins next week. If they do that and the Bills take care of business against New England, the Bills could actually win the AFC East because they have the tiebreaker from that earlier win against the Dolphins in Orchard Park. So a lot riding on what happens this weekend as far as the Ravens, who really want to get that top seed and play at home against the Dolphins. So the Bills have that going for them. Again, to see Gabe Davis step up like he did. He's scored 8 touchdowns now, and that's only one behind Stephon Diggs, who again is he's being dealt with by the opposition in an effective way, but I don't think that means that he's giving less effort or anything of the kind. I think the Bills still need Diggs to be a complete offensive team, and he and Allen certainly have a trust factor going between them. And the Bills' offense right now, 5th at 382 yards plus a game, averaging 26.9 points per game. So if you can crank out 27 and hold teams to 18, that's a pretty good formula for the Bills. What about the Kansas City Chiefs? What the heck has happened there? Mahomes just looks like he's out of sync with his receivers, and they're not helping him at all, and the frustration is really starting to show. Travis Kelce getting into words with Andy Reid on the sidelines. They're still the Chiefs at 9-6 and have the same record as the Bills, But in that division, the Bills may well have to go to Arrowhead again. It could happen, but right now, the way the Chiefs are playing, you never want to assume anything, but the Bills would be in very good shape, in my opinion, if it's the Chiefs they play. They could also face the Dolphins again in a back-to-back situation, much has happened just recently. And that's always tough for either team, whichever wins the game next week, to turn right around and beat the same team again. But that's could happen. The MVP race, Josh Allen, 40 total touchdowns. Nobody else even close. And Brock Purdy, who is the closest, who has 31 total touchdowns. The 4-interception game against the Ravens really took some of the shine off of his luster. And he's a great story. The last player drafted. And he's an outstanding quarterback. Is he the next Tom Brady? No. But the 49ers are loaded offensively and defensively, and they're a tough out for anybody. And the way the Ravens handled them. And Lamar Jackson, as I mentioned earlier, was very instrumental. But Jackson has 24 total touchdowns. That's 16 touchdowns less than generated by Josh Allen. And yes, some people are saying, well, Allen just scores short touchdown runs. Well, that's not all of it. He has 13 touchdowns rushing. And if it was that easy to do, a lot of teams would be piling it in from the one or the two. The Eagles do it with their successful tush-push, but the Bills have wound up with a pretty good formula of their own. But Allen also has extended plays with his legs, a big reason the Bills are number one in the NFL in converting on third down. But it's going to be a really, really interesting weekend coming up here as everybody jockeys for playoff position. The Bills, if they stumble against the Patriots, God forbid, they could wind up not even being in the playoffs. But if they take care of business against the Patriots, if the Ravens can somehow take out the Patriots or take out the Dolphins, then the Bills could be playing for the division title in a couple weeks. And wouldn't that be something? Remember when the Bills were 5-5 and it looked like they were just finished? Well, they are far, far from finished. And we'll see what happens next week, but it should be a lot of fun. Bills, Patriots in Orchard Park at 1 o'clock next Sunday, and we'll talk after that one.